Welcome back to our series on the gods of Olympus. In part 1, we saw Zeus and Hera's childhood. Today, we dive into one of the most chaotic marriages in all of mythology. So, how did Zeus finally win over his sister Hera? Well, win might be a strong word. He knew she had a soft spot for animals, so he transformed himself into a small, shivering cuckoo bird caught in a storm. Hera, feeling sorry for the poor creature, held it to her chest to warm it. The moment she did, Zeus transformed back into his true form and, well, let's just say he didn't take no for an answer. Trapped and compromised, Hera had no choice but to agree to marry him. And what a wedding it was. The celebration on Mount Olympus lasted for 300 years, with all the gods and goddesses in attendance. Hera was crowned Queen of the Heavens, seated on a magnificent throne beside Zeus. It seemed like the start of a divine fairy tale. But if you know anything about Zeus, you know that happily ever after wasn't exactly his style. Almost immediately after the wedding, his wandering eye began to, well, wander. Zeus started having affairs with countless other goddesses, nymphs, and mortal women, and this is where we meet the most famous version of Hera, the jealous, vengeful queen. Her rage was legendary. She didn't just get mad, she got even, in the most terrifying ways imaginable. One of Zeus's lovers, Callisto, was turned into a bear. Another, Io, was transformed into a cow and tormented by a relentless gadfly. Hera's fury wasn't just directed at the women. She also targeted their children. Her most famous victim was Heracles, Zeus's son, with the mortal Alcmene. Hera sent snakes to his crib when he was just a baby and spent his entire life trying to destroy him. Despite all the drama, Zeus and Hera did have 4 official children together. Ares, the god of war. Hephaestus, the god of the forge. Hebe, the goddess of youth. And Eileithyia, the goddess of childbirth. You'd think having kids would bring them closer, but in this family, it just added more fuel to the fire. Let's start with their firstborn, Ares. He grew up to be a brutal, bloodthirsty god who reveled in the chaos and carnage of battle. Unlike Athena, who represented strategic warfare, Ares was all about pure, unadulterated violence. He loved stirring up conflicts on Earth, just for the fun of it. This often forced Zeus to step in and clean up his son's messes. Homer's Iliad gives us a great example of their relationship. During the Trojan War, Zeus openly expresses his disdain for Ares, calling him the most hateful of all the gods on Olympus, because of his love for strife and bloodshed. For Zeus, who had to maintain order, his own son was a constant, exhausting headache. Then there's their second son, Hephaestus. His story is one of the saddest on Olympus. According to one version, Hera, furious at Zeus for giving birth to Athena all by himself, decided she would have a child on her own to spite him. The result was Hephaestus, but he was born ugly and with a lame leg. Disgusted by his appearance, here or in some myths, Zeus threw him from the top of Mount Olympus. He fell for a whole day before crashing onto the island of Lemnos, an impact that left him with permanent injuries. But Hephaestus was a survivor. He became a master craftsman, the greatest smith the world had ever known, and he never forgot the humiliation of his rejection. To get his revenge, he forged a magnificent golden throne and sent it to his mother, Hera, as a gift. Delighted, she sat down, only to find herself trapped by invisible chains. None of the gods could free her. Zeus was furious and embarrassed. The queen of the gods was stuck on her throne. He eventually had to send Dionysus, the god of wine, to get Hephaestus, drunk, and persuade him to come back to Olympus and release her. Hephaestus agreed, but on his own terms. This act not only forced Zeus and Hera to finally recognize his power, but also secured his place as one of the 12 Olympians. Next, we have their daughters. Hebe was the goddess of eternal youth. She served as the cupbearer to the gods, pouring them nectar and ambrosia. Her story takes an interesting turn when she marries Heracles after he ascends to Olympus as a god. This marriage was a strategic move by Zeus. By marrying his legitimate daughter to his most famous illegitimate son, he granted Heracles immortality and, in a way, helped to finally soothe Hera's long-standing grudge against him. It was a rare moment of peace in the divine family. Their other daughter was Eileithyia, the goddess of childbirth. While this sounds like a helpful rule, Hera often used her daughter as a pawn in her schemes. Whenever one of Zeus's lovers was about to give birth, Hera would command Eileithyia to delay the labor or make it excruciatingly painful. She famously did this to Leto, who was pregnant with Zeus's twins, Apollo and Artemis. Hera forbade Eileithyia from assisting, forcing Leto to wander the earth in agony, unable to find a place to give birth. Eventually, Zeus had to intervene yet again to ensure his children could be born. So, when you look at the whole picture, Zeus's family life was a complete mess. His affair-fueled marriage to Hera was a constant source of conflict. His own children created endless problems that he, as the king of the gods, had to manage. Ares' wars exhausted him. Hephaestus' revenge exposed the royal family's dysfunction to everyone, and his daughters, Hebe and Eileithyia, became tools in Hera's relentless games of jealousy and power. Through it all, Zeus was constantly forced to assert his authority, not just as a king, but as the head of a deeply troubled and powerful family. He was the patriarch, the ruler of the cosmos. But at home, he was a beleaguered husband and father, trying to keep his chaotic divine household from falling apart. His story with Hera is less of a romance and more of an epic saga of power, betrayal, and the endless drama that defined the gods of Olympus. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this deep dive into divine family dysfunction, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss our next video. See you next time.